hell can I do for you?
And I'm really, really tired of Paulian emotional attacks, manipulation with very little evidence and absolutely zero intellectual debate. It is emotional gaslighting in a system that is collapsing. Okay. The church and Pauline Christianity is getting the plug pulled. Christian truther channels are bashing Christianity left, right, and twice on Sunday, but they have absolutely zero covenant clarity. They're exposing symptoms, but not naming the disease. They're asking questions, but still quoting Paul and equating Paul's entity with Jesus, the son of David. People who are exposing Paul are not exposing the covenant, the alternative covenant to Paul's covenant. They're not doing that. They're leaving that piece out. And these millions of people whose church is collapsing around them are going to be led to New Age or led to rabbiism. That's what resurrected rabbiism. That's what they're doing.
Door like a big boy. I am so proud. Well, shit. Care about my people. I don't want to just march them into the line of fire because I want to play my dick is bigger than yours. It is. We both know it. I'm sorry. Scorched earth, you dick!
Good afternoon and welcome to another fan mail episode. I think we're on 12, maybe 13. I don't know, but we're going to try to get through this one pretty quickly. And all of the comments, let's just start here. All of the comments about baptism, which is insanely insulting, and the Christ entity that we know is Paul's entity, which is not the Davidic heir of, the son of David, King Jesus. And the difference in that is clear. I mean, this is clearly, all written. The hellfire and the baptizing in Christ. It's really interesting that they noted that in order to be amongst Pauline Christianity, you absolutely must die to with Christ. Did you see that? The death and rebirth cycle? Okay. Well, all that stuff shows me that you haven't watched anything. You're judgmental and you are using slogans and a lack of knowledge, and you are not bringing debate or information or questioning to this forum. So I'm not even going to justify any of that with an answer, okay? Because we've done series upon series upon series, and if you watch any of them, okay, you'll all of those things are addressed throughout. And I'm really, really tired of Paulian emotional attacks, manipulation with very little evidence and absolutely zero intellectual debate. It is emotional gaslighting in a system that is collapsing. Okay. The church and Pauline Christianity is getting the plug pulled. And that's a very dangerous thing because the people out there are not going to have an alternative. And I kind of want to show you what I mean by that. So I'm going to put in a quick search on YouTube right now. And I'm just putting in spiritual warfare. And I want to show you the channels that are talking about these things, okay? So we're going to try and share this tab instead. Let's see if it works. Let's share this tab instead. Hold on. Because I want to show you the nonsense that's out there before I address this. And it's actually really dangerous. And I think that's what I want to discuss today is the deconstruction mythos. Okay. This is the garbage that is available to people who want to be in spiritual warfare. Okay. And, all of these channels have millions of collected views. This guy is actually close. Okay. Whoever this is, this guy's seen this guy before, deep end. This guy's close, but they are not Davidic Covenant people. And that is the critical missing piece. Okay. None of these channels, none of them talking about spiritual warfare are standing from a place of Davidic Covenant. Every single one of them is standing from a place of Pauline Covenant. That is terrifying. Okay, now there's not a single person. Let's look up Paul is false. Paul, false apostle. Here we go. We've got good old Aaron Abke, the first one in the algorithm. That should tell you something. Okay. Whenever you're first in the algorithm, chances are it's not a good thing. We've got good old Bart Ehrman. We've got this guy who's pretty decent, but he is not Davidic Covenant. He's Rabbi Covenant. Okay. We've got this guy who's been on here for 100 fucking years. Do not believe that they are in Davidic Covenant. They are doing the Hebrew roots thing. It's one of the original Hebrew roots guys. We've got this guy again. Absolutely not. He does a lot on Revelation. He's a preterist. Interesting information. Complete Paulian, I think. Nobody here exposing Paul is doing anything from the stance of the Davidic Covenant. Not one of them. Not a single one. Any of these channels that you can look up. It's Paul's false, Paul's false, Paul's false. Go to Judaism. Go to the rabbis. Paul's false, Paul's false, Paul's false. But we're still Trinitarian. And guys, this is so insanely dangerous. Okay, there's nobody out there. There's nobody out there. There's nobody out there getting them out of the loop. And that is awful. And I honestly don't know how to even address this mess. So you're going to have people on both sides, right? But no one is standing from covenant. No one is teaching from a covenant lens. Zero people. You look up our Gnostic people. All of these Gnostic channels are dedicated to proving Christianity false. Okay? Really, really dangerous people. But what they're doing is they're conflating Paul with Jesus. And they do it well. These guys are more informed. Esoterica, Esoteric Path, Gnostic Informant, all these guys. Okay? These guys know their shit when it comes to deconstructing Christianity, but they've never seen a Davidic covenant in their life. So when I tell you, okay, when I tell you that Christianity is falling, Christianity is getting taken out, guys. And it's getting taken out systematically, effectively, and it is collapsing. Okay? That's the first thing I wanted to point out. Here, this tab instead. But I'm not going to belabor that. Every single channel out there is avoiding the Davidic covenant. All of them. There's nobody with this information out there, and it's frightening. So we're not even going to discuss all of the emotionally manipulative bumper sticker slogans that they threw at me in this video, that if you've watched any others, you already know the drill, right? We don't even need to go over this because that's the whole premise of the channel, okay? But something I do want to discuss is this idea of quote-unquote deconstruction. So we're going to deconstruct the term deconstruction today because there's a very big difference between covenant loyalty and deconstruction. People who deconstruct, and this is what I'm afraid of, that all of these anti-Paul channels, anti-Trinitarian channels, Unitarian channels, Gnostic channels, Christian truther channels, all of these movements out there who are teaching pieces of this, but not going into Davidic covenant, are going to lead people to deconstruct and chase the fog. And they're not going to have a fallback. Their fallback is rabbinic Judaism, Levitical law, okay, or their fallback is Gnosticism and New Age. Those two answers, there's a third path. Okay, that's what we're saying here. There's a third way. So deconstructors are going to be lost because what they're all still doing, every one of them, there is no exception. They're starting with doctrine, and then they emotionally and intellectually unravel. That's what they're doing. But they're still starting with Catholic doctrine as their baseline. They're starting with Paulianity and seeing everything through that lens, whether proving it true or proving it false. They're still merging all of their attention on Pauline Christianity. And the only answer to combat that thus far is New Age / Gnosticism and or rabbinic influenced Hebrew roots Judaism. That's all they're doing. No one has yet discovered a Davidic covenant. And I can't believe it. So Christians in the church that's falling apart around them are calling deconstructors, it's confusion, okay? They're calling confusion in the failure of apologetics and the failure of the corrupt priesthoods and preachers. They're calling that confusion deconstruction, which is spiritual malpractice and emotional manipulation. Deconstructors walk away as soon as clarity demands allegiance to something. But when you tear it all down without a viable option, they have nothing to be allegiant to. They don't know where to go. I am not deconstructing on this channel. What I'm doing is enforcing clarity in a fogged back moment in history where everyone is talking about spiritual warfare, but nobody is naming the Davidic king. My case is not just unique. It's timely, it's tactical, and it's multidimensional. The Davidic Covenant is not missing from these channels and from the consciousness, collective consciousness of the world. The Davidic Covenant's not missing. It's there. I'm in it. But it's being actively bypassed, suppressed, erased, and avoided. And I'm the only fucking person calling it out. And some other channels better get their shit together and start figuring it out. My case is unique because I lived the breach first. Astral kidnapping, supernatural override, and courtroom extraction. I didn't theorize about spiritual warfare. I didn't come into spiritual warfare from the outside, from a ministry seeped in theological ideas. Okay? I was in the middle of spiritual warfare, and theology didn't help me. Okay? I wasn't a preacher who came in and figured out a little piece that's different from normal doctrine. I survived it, documented it, and dismantled it from the inside out, not from the outside in. Everyone's now talking about astral projection, sleep paralysis, DMT gateways, but they're all pointing to Paul's Christ as the solution, a glamored construct that bypasses the Davidic era completely and reroutes allegiance into a false jurisdiction. Christian truther channels are bashing Christianity left, right, and twice on Sunday, but they have absolutely zero covenant clarity. They're exposing symptoms, but not naming the disease. They're asking questions, but still quoting Paul and equating Paul's entity with Jesus, the son of David. People who are exposing Paul are not exposing the covenant, the alternative covenant to Paul's covenant. They're not doing that. They're leaving that piece out. And these millions of people whose church is collapsing around them are going to be led to New Age or led to Rabbiism. That's what resurrected Rabbiism. That's what they're doing. Modern Israel is being debated everywhere. Nobody's explaining the two-house split between Judah and Ephraim or the reunited house of David, which is the actual freaking prophetic plot line of the entire fucking scroll. So, you can Paul false or Trinity false or Gnostic New Age all day long, but if you don't know the two houses and what covenant that entails, you're way off the board. Media influencers are suddenly pushing traditional Christianity to millions upon millions upon millions of people. That's not covenant allegiance. That's not dimensional clarity. It's institutionalized mascot worship. And none of this is a coincidence. It's a fog loop reinforcement. As things collapse, the scramble is on. And people are scrambling to pull strings, and the whole sweater's unraveling around them. So why is the Davidic Covenant being completely frickin' ignored by everyone out there? Well, because it's not marketable, you guys. The algorithm hates it. Viewers don't like it. It doesn't tell you that you're right. What it does tell you is it demands allegiance, lineage, genealogy audits, and courtroom enforcement. It's not emotional, and it's not even intellectual. It doesn't sell books, and it doesn't build megachurches. It exposes corrupt glamour theology from both the rabbis and the Christians. So the Jews and Christians, both your heads are on the chopping block up here when you get to the Davidic Covenant, and they don't want to do that. Two major institutionalized religions from, quote, Judeo-Christianity have to be wiped away. For this to hold, they can't go against the priesthood. It has to be one or the other. Black and white thinking. They don't feel comfortable in the gray. Because once you name the biological patriarchal Davidic heir, you have to audit Paul. You have to audit the Trinity. You have to audit original sin. You have to audit the entire Roman edit trail and the Levitical edit trail of the rabbis. And you have to do both modern and ancient, in every single self-claimed divine monarchy that is ruled from the banking elites to the kings and queens throughout history. Every one of them loses their standing. This is a dimensional collapse, not a devotion to a mascot. The Davidic Covenant is not a metaphor. It's a legal structure. And neither modern scholarship nor modern theology from anybody is able to survive this courtroom audit. So they run you in circles. So why this voice matters, and it matters right now, because we're not theorizing. We're not teaching, and we're not preaching. We're testifying. I was extracted from breach, sealed by override, and baptized into covenant, not through a magical belief-based ceremony. I am not deconstructing. I'm rebuilding from the very spine of the covenant, while everybody else is still quoting glamored fragments of BS from Rome or the rabbis. I am not confused. I'm early. The rest better fucking catch up. Because spiritual warfare without Davidic Covenant allegiance is cosplay. Still, we go so slow. That's dimensional pacing. Because override clarity requires forensic patience, not emotional urgency that these commenters throw at me when they start to fall apart because they hear something they don't like. We read the whole chapter whenever we can, and if we can't, we go back to it later. That's why it takes us so long, because we have integrity with the scrolls. We want context before drawing conclusions. We want our covenant before we comment. We pull out wonky grammar. We look for edits. That's the override method, guys. You've got to do breach detection through linguistic and political audit on everything. Then we double back and we piece it with the whole. This is sequencing. No verse stands alone. No doctrine can survive if it doesn't align to the covenant, because the Davidic covenant detonates everything that it touches that is false. God is a God of truth. You can't cover it up. It rots away, falls off like dead skin. Reading through covenant lens is your dimensional filter. The Davidic king, King Jesus, David's heir, that kingdom jurisdiction is the only valid interpretive frame. I don't care how many PhDs you have. I don't care how many history books you dig through. I don't care how many languages you analyze, how many rabbis you interview, how many Russ Dizdar, sleep paralysis, astro people you talk to. I don't give a shit if they're not looking at it through a Davidic covenant lens. You are going to be backed into a theological corner. You see that with Michael Heiser. Brilliant Dr. Heiser. In the Old Testament, you put him in the New Testament with Paul, he turns into a bumbling freaking idiot. Something always falls apart when you're not reading through a covenant lens, guys, every single time. You see it with these Paul people, the people exposing Paul, who are not exposing the rabbis in the Levitical priesthood from ancient times. They're telling you to follow Levitical law, dude. That's not covenant. Because they're running from Rome to the rabbis. And now we're even getting modern Jews who are saying, wait a minute, Judaism's let's run it, and they're running and setting it to Paul. It's this back and forth switch. And everyone's trampling the Davidic covenant because it's not popular and it's not marketable. It holds you accountable. We're not reading scripture. We're running a breach audit with every single verse. And if you haven't been here long enough to do that and have an open mind to see that, because clearly this guy commenting has zero schema and background knowledge, and it's so bad, it's ridiculous. That's why we're not even commenting on all the stupid shit, right? Because if you've been here for more than 5 minutes, you understand that everything he just said, it's ironic. Like the irony just seeps from it, doesn't it? It does. So others are pulling these verses to support this fluffy self-improvement sermon's main idea. They're skipping context for emotional resonance. They're teaching breach theology without covenant because they're desperate to be proven correct. They quote random verses to support man-made doctrine, and they're ignoring context, lineage, and covenant. They treat scripture like a motivational poster. But we said, we don't care about being right. We care about being accurate. And that means we go slow, forensic, with covenant-backed clarity. And if you don't have the time for that, don't just do a drive-by and scream at me about hellfire. Believe me, okay? You're talking to the wrong people with that. We read the whole story. We're auditing the grammar. We're tracking the covenant. And we don't build theology on slogans or bumper stickers. So no, they say she's deconstructing. Now that's a false label. I'm doing exactly the opposite of deconstructing, dipshit. The term deconstructing is glamour theology's attempt to categorize, override clarity that holds them responsible as rebellion. Heresy. You know the term heresy? Because there was no separation of church and state, heresy was a legal term. Okay? You were politically persecuted for heresy, not quote unquote religiously. Like today, heresy is like, oh, they kicked me out of the church on the corner. right? The little preachers are having their little infighting. The little Paulians are all arguing with each other. That's heresy now. Heresy in the old days, dude, that was backed on law, legal. So this is just, they can't call you heretic because it doesn't mean anything. Because they can't come around and kill you anymore because the church and state are separate. They can't make you a political outcast or a political victim yet. I think it's coming. So they label you a deconstructionist. But deconstructors aren't in Davidic Covenant to begin with. They're not covenant-backed people, and neither are their churches nor their preachers that they're walking away from. So you have a non-covenant church with a non-covenant preacher with a non-covenant attender, and that non-covenant attender is walking away from the non-covenant church, and they don't have anywhere to go. Because 0 people are offering the only fucking thing that makes sense and the only thing that works. These people are incapable. Deconstructors are totally incapable of a true scroll audit. Why? Because without allegiance, you have no safety net. All you have is emotional unraveling. That's spiritual malpractice, guys. We aren't throwing out the king and his covenant. Neither of those. We're standing in override posture because we put courtroom loyalty before theology. We put allegiance before articulation. We wait before we speak to make sure we're aligned in the covenant. Because my ass got beat for 40 fucking years. Dimensional warfare. This is breach exposure, override extraction, and tactical sealing. That is not deconstruction. We didn't deconstruct over here. I survived the breach. I am forced by the covenant, and we're rebuilding theology from courtroom evidence. So I'm not just off the map. I'm an anomaly who teaches through satire and roast logic. I'm exposing corrupted theology's emotional cosplay and reminding the enemy every fucking day out there on that grid that clarity isn't rebellion. It's loyalty under fire. So this might be your favorite mislabel, but no, we're not deconstructing. We're enforcing because nobody else is. We're rebuilding because nobody else is. We're sealed. And deconstruction is what happens when people start with bullshit doctrine and lose their grip. That's not me. I got dragged into beatdowns and outer darkness through astral breach and was poltergeist tortured for 4 fucking decades. I threw out Christianity and Judaism's corruptions. I stood with the Davidic king, and after all that mess, I still said, I'm not fucking leaving my covenant. That isn't deconstruction. That's loyalty. And I am holding my tongue because Paul's eternal magic entity that you keep slathering all over my channel, the one that's in control of your Christian religion, that's the one that did this to me. And I'm pissed right off about it. I went through the supernatural first. Got my ass beat, got extracted, and I'm not leaving the Davidic king ever. Period. So don't come here and try to hawk baptism and hellfire. It ain't fucking happening. You can't understand the Bible because it's not written for you. So stop pretending the Bible is yours to corrupt and to edit. to make it say something it doesn't. And I'm talking to both of you Jews and Christians. So fuck off.
Energy. 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 You cannot fuck with this. Energy. You cannot fuck with this energy. All those in the session, all of those who are listening, don't miss the message, judging me. You cannot fuck with this energy. Energy.
These are videos that go pretty in depth. First thing you should probably do is pause and read our 12 rules for reading biblical text. And if you don't like the 12 rules, or you don't understand the 12 rules, well, I don't have time to explain them all. Go back to the book that I wrote and uploaded on this channel, which takes you through the entire arc and how we made these quote unquote 12 rules as a framework of what we found after 7 years digging meticulously and carefully through the text. So if you're confused, go do that. If I refer back, well, that's probably because we actually post these things in order. So they're all done in series. And if you jump in at the middle of a series without any schema or background knowledge, and you get all pissed off, well, that's also not our problem. This is a group where we go line by line, scroll by scroll through the text. Warning, we are not language sensitive. So if you can't handle some cussing, it's not the place for you. We also do not endorse nor approve of pretty much any mainstream theology. So if you're looking for that, also definitely not the place for you. We do a video about the characters that we use in our Bible study series. And the reason we do this is sort of so that they can kind of get in your head. So we do have a video explaining why we chose the people we chose and how their sort of energy characteristics go along with the biblical characters to modernize it for people so they know what the heck we're reading. Clearly, the Roman Church was not doing their job and looking for the lost sheep of the reunited House of David. So that's what we're doing, okay? We're taking that away from them because they screwed it up. The brilliant rabbis also down there in Babylon are also not looking for the lost sheep of the reunited kingdom of David. So you're not going to hear, let's follow Rome. And you're not going to hear, let's follow the rabbis on this channel. Because, you know, sorry, not sorry, but the Bible wasn't actually written for the corrupt Levitical priesthood post-Babylon and Persia to read it through their little janky books. And it also wasn't written to be read through the eyes of pagan 4th century church fathers. So we're not doing that either. You guys can both have a seat. Oddly enough, the Bible also wasn't written to be read through the eyes of some dumbass scholars with pieces of paper that say they're smarter than everyone, but have never seen a Davidic covenant in their life. Not written for them either. You know who it's written for? It's written for the reunited house of David, who are actually in covenant and are actually the sheep. That's who it's written for. That's why nobody else can understand what the heck's going on. What you are going to hear is what you're supposed to hear, which is, let's follow the king. And let's get started.
So, we are going to war.
Yes.